This is the book of First Corinthians, chapter 7, and verse 27. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loose from a wife? Seek not a wife. Shalom, shalom, Akim. Before I begin, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. All right, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, salutations, and blessings unto the elect. Okay, I'm the Brother Gabaria Allah coming at you with another lesson. Okay, and in today's lesson, is going to be entitled, But What If My Wife Isn't in the Truth? All right, so this is a question that, when I had first came into the truth, I was asking myself, okay, so pretty much, I was dealing with this woman in high school, okay, and, still dealing with the same woman, through the grace and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, but, when I first heard about this truth, I thought I had to cut her off, and that's a big misconception, all right? You have IUIC who being over righteous, okay, tells women, or tells you men that if you have like 3 months or something to convert your wife into a Hebrew Israelite or something along those lines, okay, and they're going off, okay, they're being over righteous, okay, the scriptures talk about being over righteous, destroying thy own self, okay. So pretty much I'm just making this lesson to clear any confusion, okay, and anything that newer brothers might be questioning, okay, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay, and the elder apostle Tahar has said this many times, a lot of times, it's best to not even tell your wife that you in this truth, that you in this ministry. Okay, you want to keep that like a mystery, a secret. Well, not a secret, but if she finds out, she finds out. If she doesn't, don't go out of your way to tell her. If she ends up finding out, if she wants to learn more, hey, call her lawyer, how about Shem Yahushai. If she don't put no pressure on her. Women are gonna be women regardless. Okay, women are gonna be women regardless. So that's why I opened up with 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and 27. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Right. Okay, meaning, if you have a wife, okay, you in this ministry, you have a wife, okay, seek not to be loose. Okay, if you're pleased to deal with that woman, okay, and, she fattens your bones and, you guys have a family together, you don't have to necessarily destroy that whole family, You don't want to take kids, your mom being a bitch, you don't want to do this, But, of course, you have to put this ministry first, right? But that doesn't mean to divorce your wife, okay? That just means, you have to go do the work of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, okay? And women are going to be women, okay? Women love to celebrate, birthdays. Women love to celebrate Christmas. Women love to do these things, okay? And, if you get invited into to go eat or something, it get you a plate. But, don't be out there, going to no clubs. Don't be out there, being a ninja, being a worldly dude. Okay, don't be out there taking your kids to go trick-or-treating and whatnot. Don't be taking your kids out to go buy demonic ass costumes. All right. Don't be partakers in that. Okay, if your kid likes to walk around, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what to do or what not to do, but if your kid likes to look at the scenery or whatever during Halloween, he likes to look at the houses or whatnot, because I know my little niece, she loves to look at houses. Okay, she loves to look at the houses, but I don't take her to go, no damn trick or treating. Okay, but if she wants to go watch a scary movie or whatnot, you'll take her to watch a movie. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but these there's certain things that you can and can't do, and you have to decide for yourself through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Okay, it says, seek not to be loose, or if thou loose from a wife, seek not a wife. Okay, so that don't that don't mean that you can't have a wife if you don't have a wife already. But it's just advice. Okay, it's advice. If you don't have a wife, don't be looking for a wife. Okay, why? Because a lot of times wives are not, especially nowadays, women are no longer virgins. Okay, and you'll be lucky to have a woman who's a virgin. Okay, you'll be lucky to be the first man to conceive into her. I would say. And but it's not unheard of. The Lord definitely has blessed Akim with some righteous, godly woman. Okay. The Lord has definitely blessed Akim with some women who definitely, are feminine. Okay, they definitely do things, and they're pleased to be with them. Okay, and if that's the case, if that's you, if you pleased to be with your woman, and she not in the truth, you don't gotta, you know, divorce from her, but just understand that you have to do what you gotta do still. Okay, that's you have to do what you gotta do still. You can't, just because she don't be in the truth, that don't mean that you stop going out on Saturdays. That don't mean that you start having sex on the Sabbath. If she start ovulating, I'll use that word. If she start ovulating and it's the Sabbath, you gotta say, hey, what I mean, baby, you gotta wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow sundown, or say it's the daytime of the Sabbath. You'll say, hey, you gotta wait till later. We can't do that right now. Wait till the sun go down. And those are things that you can control. Okay, it says, but if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. If a virgin marry, she hath not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. Right. So you're not sinning if you have a marriage. Okay, you're not sinning if you have a wife here. Okay, it's just recommended not to, be seeking women out here. Okay, because a lot of women here are wicked. All right, they'll take shit from you, especially Eve, man. Southern Kingdom, bro. I feel, man. I pray to the Heavenly Father every day for Northern Kingdom, bro. It's like your Southern Kingdom, every day for Southern Kingdom. Their women are beyond, what Eve has gone off, bro. And of course, like I said, there's always gonna be that remnant that the Lord, will give to brothers, But a lot of times, brothers have women from, Northern Kingdom. Okay, and right now Northern Kingdom is being punished. Okay. With ICE and whatnot. Quick testimony. My woman, her and her grandma, they saw ICE trucks all over downtown LA. Okay, and I live in Los Angeles, so it's we're coming into a time where it's just gonna be extra responsibility. Okay, because when you have a wife, she's like, you have a responsibility towards her. You can't just have a wife, just pop her and then call her your wife and then that's the end of it. No, man. If you have a wife, that's extra responsibility. Okay, but anyhow, I'm going to read in the NLT. It says, if you have a wife, do not seek to end the marriage. If you do not have a wife, do not seek to get married. But if you do get married, it is not a sin, right? Okay. If you do end up getting married, hey, you're not going off. Okay. Ultimately, the Lord told us to be fruitful. Okay. So you're not going off if your woman gets pregnant. Okay. You're not going off if your woman gets pregnant and now you have a kid here, in Babylon. You're not necessarily going off, but it's not, the wisest decision to make right now, especially coming into the times that we're coming into. You don't know when the Lord will come back. It could be 5 years. It could be next month. Most likely it won't be next month, but well, matter of fact, they were speaking about June and July having they have an agenda for summer. Okay, so you never know, man. So it says, but if you do get married, it is not a sin, and if a young woman gets married, it is not a sin. However, those who get married at this time will have troubles. I am trying to spare you from these problems, right? Okay, so ultimately it's advice, okay, given. All right, and why you're gonna have problems, like I said, it's gonna be extra responsibility. Okay, being a man in this truth, you have to be a husband as well. You have to move like a husband in this truth. Okay, and a husband, is supposed to protect, provide, okay, and care for the woman, and the woman is supposed to conceive, bear. She's supposed to cook, she's supposed to clean, she's supposed to be a housewife. Okay, so there's a trade-off that comes with marriage. All right, but we're coming into a time of Jacob's trouble, where if your woman don't know how to fillet a fish, okay, you say you catch a fish, and you could going out to catch more, she's like, oh, I don't know how to fillet a fish. You're gonna be there like, what the fuck I got you here for? So these things that you gotta take into account. Now you got extra responsibility. But real quick, I'm gonna grab Ecclesiasticus. Ecclesiasticus chapter 7 and verse 26. It says, hast thou a wife after thy mind? Forsake her not, but give not thyself over to a light woman. Right, okay. So you don't want to, if you have a wife who you're pleased to deal with, okay, just because she's not in this truth, she may be, she may be wanting to celebrate, whatever, woman gonna be woman, man. Just make sure, you're not gonna be partaking, okay? Make sure you're not, wearing a fucking big ass hat, wearing a pointy ass hat. Make sure you're not, wearing a pointy hat, going to a birthday party, having the little the things that you blow on to make noise. You're right there. Nah, man. You're not singing happy birthday. You're not worshiping the dude, because ultimately, a birthday is self-worship. Okay? A birthday is ultimately self-worship. When you have a birthday, all right, they're pretty much worshiping you. Okay? Now, is it okay to acknowledge how old you are? Yeah, sure. Hey, you're 20 years old. But there shouldn't be no fucking worship, man. Ultimately, all the worship should be towards Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Okay? And if they offer you a plate of food, don't be over righteous and be like, nah, fuck that. No, man. If they offer you a plate of food, hey, that's the Lord giving you some food, man. Some free food. And in this economy, boy, hey, man, I live in California, man. I'm going to get, any food I can, bro. Shit is crazy out here in California, bro. And I'm sure all over the world, man. Okay, there was a point in time where gas was $10 out here in Cali. It's gone down, but it's still fucking high, man. It's still $4 a gallon. The cheapest I've seen right now is like $4.70. That's the cheapest, man. So, ultimately you can't be over righteous, destroying your own self, man. So, if you have a woman, you please to deal with her. And this is, of course, for the newer brothers. Obviously the more seasoned Akim already know this, already done been through this, But if you have if you're new in this ministry and you have a wife, okay, and you pleased to deal with that woman, okay, because it's hard to find a woman to be pleased to deal with nowadays. Okay, you have women who are harlots. Okay, if you have a woman who she's not a harlot, okay, if she's not a harlot, she cooks for you, she cleans for you, she fattens your bones. There's no reason to lose that. Okay, there's no reason to make your life harder and lose that. All right, so that's pretty much it, man. Just remember, just because you have a wife, okay, just because she's not in the ministry and you are, that don't mean you stop doing your videos. That don't mean you stop listening to the videos. That don't mean you stop going out on Saturdays or whenever you go out, on the highways and hedges. No, man. You have to ultimately prioritize this truth, okay? And then, you know, you can still have time for your woman, man. Trust me, don't worry about that. All right, you still have time for your woman, man. There's 24 hours in a day. Okay, you have to dedicate a portion of that into this faith. So, that's pretty much it, man. With that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim Kakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Green Millstone who rule and teach well.